Good evening and welcome to the February 11th, 2020 meeting of the East Long Meadow Town Council. I'll open the meeting now with a pledge of allegiance followed by a moment of silence. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We ask that you keep our nation's first responders and our servicemen and women around the globe in your thoughts. As well, we remember the service of Officer William Blanchard, who served our police department in our town for over 20 years, who recently passed away. Thank you. In accordance with Mass General Law, this meeting is being audio taped and videotaped. If there is anyone in the audience doing the same, would you kindly identify yourself? Seeing none, we can move on to public comments. Is there anyone here this evening who wishes to speak to the council? Okay, and now we can move to council comments. Any councilors have remarks? It's a quiet group tonight.
I spoke last time.
Fair enough. So we are quickly down to town manager's report, and we have an interesting looking Miss McNally before us this evening. Right.
So you have Mary's report. She's on vacation and has stuck me with the acting town manager role while she's gone. We'll just touch on a couple of the things in her report, if that's okay with you guys. The relocation of the offices in Town Hall went pretty smoothly with my IT staff and Bruce's building facilities department. Over 2 days, we got everybody moved around, kind of a shell game, moving some people into a temporary workspace and getting everybody into their final homes. Everything's done. We had to rewire a lot of stuff, but everyone's settled in and I believe happy.
Good job.
Good.
Yep.
Oh, Ryan Quimby. Not Mary McNally. IT director and acting town manager.
Name, address.
The next thing is with dispatch. I know Mary's been charged with coming up with a solution for our dispatch department. And with the Westcom Regional Dispatch, we attended one of their meetings, and they are accepting applications for additional towns to join. And us and the town of Munson have expressed interest and submitted letters of interest. Munson is a little bit ahead of us, having signed an agreement already. They are, their feet are on fire and they're running for it. So we're trying to keep up. I think it's easier for us to connect with our technology assets with Long Meadow. But we're going to be looking for hopefully more information and maybe an action item for the next council meeting, so we can try and get moving forward and get our name in the hat. Our go live date we're shooting for is July 1st. This way we don't have to fund a dispatch department if we have an alternative solution. So it is really aggressive. I don't think it's undoable by any means. The funding would come from the PSAP, the regional PSAP, from Westcom to get it done. But in the letter, like she points out, the development grant for 911 they changed for FY21, where it is a competitive grant, but they offer to pay for our portion of like our fee for the regional dispatch. So I think you guys got the documentation from our meeting.
Right.
So like our fee is estimated to be about $125,000. They would pay that $125,000 for the first 3 years, and then 50% of that the fourth year, and then 25% of that the fifth year. So we're looking at a substantial savings over a 5-year period.
Significant.
So if you guys have additional questions or specific information that you want to find, or if you have questions now, I'll answer what I can now. But documentation for next meeting too, I can get that for you, and Mary can get that for you.
There was some question about the compatibility of our equipment with the equipment that's being used in terms of radios or whatever. Where does that stand?
So Westcom currently is in the process of designing a new radio system, and communities that are added, Munson or us most likely won't meet that first round, so they would still use our system to communicate with our police department. We would basically patch their system into ours. So they use the same consoles that we use, the radio consoles.
Okay,
So we can basically tell our radio console to attach to their system, so then they would have access to all our assets to the point where from Chicopee, they can open and close doors and everything. So basically, as if they were sitting right in our station.
wow, thank you.
No problem.
So, in this round, is it Munson versus East Long Meadow, or can they have the capacity to handle both of us?
So as of right now, it is not versus. If it were a bigger town than Munson, it probably would be versus. If we both join, they'll be at max capacity in their current building.
That's
They're looking for a new building probably in about 18 months.
Ben?
Through the chair, I noticed that our share, while it's very close to Long Meadows, is a little more than Long Meadows,
Yeah.
and yet we have fewer calls, substantial
I believe that
per capita,
is based off of population,
Well-
not so much a call volume.
apparently. Yeah. I wonder if that's,
Yeah.
How that
Chief
works.
Morissette can explain more. Our EMS calls are
Substantial.
substantially more, not substantially more than the Long Meadows, but are
Oh.
definitely the most around. Yeah, we sat in Westcom and watched them dispatch for a few hours, and the busiest people that we heard was East Long Meadow, so.
okay, I had 4 potential drawbacks, which I'm sure you've looked at, but just for the record,
Sure.
what I see as potential drawbacks is, of course, the dark police station, which we have to
Yep, so in the
How's
numbers that we
Sunday?
are working on is actually staffing the station
staff in the
24/7.
station.
Yep,
Okay.
there'll be somebody there.
We will have to help pay for the new space. They're talking about looking for new space, so somewhere along the line, we're gonna have to pay for the new space.
Yep, so that would be added to our fee,
It-
which is reimbursable
Good.
for the first 5 years.
Okay? Tech upgrades required in East Long Meadow, they mentioned, and I'm sure you're on top of that. And when will the grants be nailed down? You're implying that they're there.
The application deadline for the FY '21 grant is April 1st, so that's for the development grant. So we'd have to let Westcom know and sign our agreement with them. I can't remember the exact name of that agreement, but,
By April 1.
yeah, so,
Okay. Thank you, Ryan.
so if there are any other
Those are my
questions or
comments.
specific information that you want to see, feel free to let myself know or Mary know. No way, I have a rough 5-year return on investment document that we're kind of working out.
Okay,
That'd be
good to
great.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to echo Pat's comments that I'm as interested in what grant monies are available,
Yeah.
because throughout the document it says potential, possible.
Yep.
That's not real. Sorry, but, you know,
Yeah.
I want to see firm numbers.
It is, so, from the 911 representative that was at the meeting that we were at, like, their number one top priority for all their grant money is adding towns to the regional PSAPs. They want to collapse the individual ones. You know, it's very expensive to run an individual one versus having everybody go to a regional one.
Other questions? All set?
I'm good?
Thank you. Okay, we can move on in the agenda to approval of minutes in your packets. You have the January 14th, 2020 open session minutes. If you have any questions or additions, deletions, now is the time.
I do.
Yeah.
In the open session minutes on page 7, It's during the discussion that I gave about the bylaws. And at the top of the page, the second sentence, Council Henry stated, since the charter changes must be approved by the voters, they should arrange to get this on the June ballot, which will need to be done by the end of March. It's almost right. It's the charter suspension must be approved by the voters. And really, that's only the charter suspension. And where it is in the document implies that it relates to the whole project. And it's just the charter suspension. So I would propose that that sentence be just dropped down underneath the bullets and change the word changes to suspension. And it would make sense and would flow. Does anybody understand that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And what else do I have? One other thing. Yes, on page 3, during the presentation of old business, Maxine Stein, it seems to me that towards the end, there was discussion,
Yes, right.
explanation that we had already voted on the subject at our December 10th council meeting, and our council rules stated we couldn't consider within 6 months, but that you would review it with our attorney. And I'm wondering if that shouldn't be in there because there was significant discussion. How do people feel? I can give this to, I'll read it again. President Hill explained that we had already voted on this subject at our December 10th council meeting, and our council rules state that we may not reconsider within 6 months, but that she would review this with our attorney.
I would
That should be in
support
there.
that because
That should
it
be
went from
included.
the discussion to me motioning
Yeah,
to move on, and it didn't explain why I stepped up and did that, so I agree with that. Thank you.
so I will give that to
Jackie?
Jackie, actually. That's it for me.
Thank you. Anything else for
I have one
corrections?
for the,
Yes.
for the open session minutes, page 2. And it's just I couldn't figure it out. We had a guest who gave his address as 22 Robert Avenue, saying he was a 2.5-year resident of our town. I couldn't find Robert Avenue in East Long Meadow. Do we have a Robert Avenue?
I don't know, yeah.
I couldn't find it, so I wasn't sure, perhaps the address is incorrect, and I wasn't sure how significant that was in terms of our minutes.
That's a good question. I don't believe, the individual who spoke clearly was credible, but maybe
Exactly, it was our
it was,
mistake,
uh,
maybe understanding.
Jackie being able to record what he said is probably where, not pointing the finger, Jackie, but you know what I mean. But I don't believe it has a significant impact on
fine.
the
That's all I
substance
have.
of.
That's all I have, thank you.
But is there a Robert Avenue, Mr. Finney?
I don't see it.
No, there is not.
No, there's one in Florida.
It is?
There's one in Long
That
Island,
sounds
too.
good.
Okay, anything else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the January 14th open session minutes with the corrections as noted.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please
Aye.
say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay.
Abstention.
And
Abstention.
abstentions, that's right, we had 2 that night. So 502. Also in your packet is the January 14, 2020 executive session minutes. Are there any additions or corrections to those?
I have the same kind of comment as I had for the others. There was a lengthy discussion over options and related costs and risks associated with PHC LLC.
Mm-hmm.
Not any more detail than that, but I think that's important to state, that there was a lengthy discussion over options and related costs and risks. People remember that? It went on for some
Yes.
time.
Yep. How's everybody feel about adding that in?
I have no objections to that.
Fine with it as well.
Have that, Jackie? Thank you. Anything else under the executive session minutes? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the January 14th, 2020 executive session minutes with the noted corrections.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Stay.
2 abstentions.
Yeah, Dante.
Okay, thank you, those are approved. We are down to communication, correspondence, and announcements. Is there anything from the council under this topic tonight?
Just a letter received? I don't know if there's going to be any mention.
It will be at the February 25th, we'll
Okay.
mention. Because it's not date stamped into Jeannie, I just gave it to Jeannie a few minutes ago,
Okay.
but then we will. Number 8, public hearings. We have a scheduled hearing on our agenda tonight for 6:30, and we cannot start that prior to that time, so I will entertain a motion to go out of order and move to orders of the day.
I'll make a motion that we continue tonight with item 9, orders of the day, and continue through that agenda until 6:30 or shortly thereafter, and then return to item 8A, only to return to continue with the rest of the agenda afterwards.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we are out of order and moving to number 9, orders of the day. Licensing matters, the pledge of license for Tudor House Discount Liquors Incorporated at 161 Shaker Road. The applicant is here, Mr.
Benjamin Coyle
Coyle.
on behalf of the applicant. My apologies to the council for missing the last meeting.
That's
I wasn't
fine. No
able to
problem.
be at the starting meeting. I can fill you in. I don't know if there's a notice that you need to read with regard to this.
No. If you want to just give a
Sure.
2-minute overview.
Sure, we were here previously with regard to the transfer of ownership of this from Henry and Karen Cantor down to the son Hank. Hank borrowed money from his brother. His brother, after consulting with an attorney later after the closing, said, if you really want security for this, you need to get a pledge of the license. That's the only reason why we're here. So lawyers made us do it, as they say.
The lawyer did.
The lawyer made us do it.
Any
So that's the only reason why we're here and doing it after.
Are there any questions from the council? Okay, then I will entertain that motion to approve the pledge of license. Someone-
So I'll make a motion to move to approve a pledge of license for Tudor House Discount Liquors Incorporated.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. And this motion passes unanimously. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
My pleasure, thank you.
Nice meeting you.
Also, under licensing matters, we have a request for a 1-day liquor license for St. Paul the Apostle Church for February 15th from 5 to 11 p.m. That is in your packet. All of the appropriate sign-offs are in order, and so unless there are questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve this liquor license.
Kathy?
Yes.
They may be in order, but it doesn't have it checked off. So I want to ask the clerk if the certificate of liability has been received, and
Yes, it has.
server certification received on,
Mhm.
Even if it's not
Some
checked
of
off, we
them-
do have it.
Yeah, what version?
the ones I have are not checked.
Yeah, I don't have to check that.
So that's been satisfied.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Anything else with that application?
So this is a liquor license with entertainment?
Yeah,
Being the
karaoke.
karaoke?
Yes,
So one boat covers the both?
correct.
Okay.
Other questions? Someone make that motion, please, then?
I'll move to approve a 1-day liquor license for St. Paul the Apostle Church for February 15th, 2020, from 5 p.m. through 11 p.m. for a Valentine party.
Second. Go ahead, Ralph.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes unanimously. And then we have a one-day liquor license for the Masonic Temple for February 22nd, 2020, from 6 p.m. till 11 p.m. for a birthday party. You have that in your package as well.
Birthday party.
Right. It's
And
the same.
with the same thing, the
With the
certificate of
check.
liability.
Right, they're not
Yeah.
checked off.
It was received?
Yes, we have it,
And the server certification as well.
right.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So based on everyone's level of comfort with that, I'll move to approve a one-day liquor license for the Masonic Temple for February 22nd, 2020, 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. for a birthday party.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. That license is approved unanimously. And finally, a one-day liquor license for St. Paul the Apostle Church for February 23rd, 2020, from 5 p.m. till 11 p.m. for a baby shower. Again, this is in the packet. Any questions? Same
Just
thing?
curious, under the then,
Mm-hmm.
it says 2/23/20, then it says date changed, 1/21/20.
Maybe that's the day
The
they
day
made the
they
date
made the
change.
change. That's Jackie's
That's the day that
initials.
they made
right?
the change.
It was
Okay,
originally
perfect.
planned for the 9th.
I'm like, they
Yeah.
probably missed it if it was gonna be on 1/21.
Or she had the baby.
Still need the gifts. Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain that motion as well.
So I'll make another motion to move to approve a one-day liquor license for St. Paul the Apostle Church for February 23rd, 2020, 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. for a baby shower.
Second.
That motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, please say nay. That one-day liquor license is also approved. We still have a few minutes to go. So we will move on to financial matters. And this is a continued topic from 2 weeks ago, the status of certain DPW capital projects. With us this evening, we have our DPW superintendent, Bruce Fenny, who can shed some light on those questions that we raised back when Sarah made the report. Mr. Fenny,
Yes.
welcome, is right.
Thank you very much. Bruce Fenny, Superintendent of Public Works. I'm here before you to review capital projects with you. Didn't know you have my sheet, that it's kind of my Bible. My staff, we update this quarterly as an ongoing basis for obviously reporting purposes. Do you want me to explain the whole sheet and what it is and?
I think what is the council's pleasure?
Any
We had a
emergency?
half a dozen questions, but I don't think it's necessary to go line by line unless,
I would offer, if there are issues that you're concerned about that we should know, start there and then we can ask our questions. Would
fair
that be
enough.
okay?
Okay, obviously, based on the last meeting, I did watch the town council meeting.
Okay.
And I know there was some discussion about the discharge meters, how old they are. Obviously, on this sheet, you can see it under the sewer projects list. You can see there's one from 1997, there's one from 2004, and then one from 2012. These are all related to sewer discharge meters. I cannot speak on behalf of the previous 3 administrations on why these projects weren't put forward, but I can tell you, myself, I've been working on it for about 1.5 years. They're pretty complex projects, especially the one in question here. I've already started the process. It's supposed to be bid out in April. This is a discharge meter that's located on North Main Street and White Street. It actually sits half in Springfield, half in East Long Meadow. I have met with the Springfield Water and Sewer Commission starting in November of 2018 with multiple meetings and engineers regarding this project to get their approval and have them review what we conceptually designed for. Then we had to meet with the Springfield Board of Public Works. We met with them on April 17, 2019 in order to get their approval. And then subsequently after that had to go speak with the Springfield City Council on May 28th of 2019 for the final approval. So we are in the process of moving forward with the project, and it is my goal to get this off the books, so to speak, by September of 2020.
Good.
It's aggressive.
And, well, like I said, and this is, I know Tom has been on the capital committee, I've been working with Tom for many years. And I know a lot of the goals in previous discussions is, like you said, is to keep some of these long-term or old projects, get them off the books. Because obviously we can do more with the money and not just sitting in the bank. And you can see on the left-hand column of your sheet, that is all the current projects that I'm currently going to be closing this year. And obviously, based on all the related information on this spreadsheet, there's going to be many more this year.
Just a general question through the chair. And these sewer discharge meters will be used to assist us in coming up with a cost associated with our discharge that is going into that we're paying for.
Yes, because currently is just estimated.
Right. And is estimated by Springfield Water Authority.
And us, and the only portion that are, that is metered in East Long Meadows are our Vineland Station. So it is my plan to get all our 7 discharge points on a meter system so we actually know what we're metering. And obviously with our inflow and infiltration program, it'll be, obviously with that information, we can use that to obviously better offset our water and sewer bills and knowing what we're actually giving to Springfield
Yeah.
for better knowledge.
Yeah, thank you for being attentive to this, because this is important to the town. I think we're paying, what, $3.50 a cubic 100 feet?
Yes,
So that's a substantial cost if we don't know what we're
Absolutely.
relying on someone else to give us how
absolutely.
much we pay them.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
I just had a question. Okay, so we're looking at 1997 appropriation for the fiscal year, $55,000. So it's going out to bid in April. You know where I'm going with this.
Yep.
And it says project estimate, $350,000. Help me with that gap.
I do have it in my capital plan to offset some of this expenditure through our capital funding for this year. The
Okay.
contract would not be awarded till July 1st if the money is appropriated.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm gonna follow up on the same thing. It says FY 2019 beginning balance on that is 84,564, yet there was only 55,000 appropriated for it. So where did the other roughly $30,000 come from?
Did they invest it? Is it interest?
I don't know.
$30,000?
1997, that's 23 years. I mean, that's, I'm
Yeah.
just trying to
Yeah, I don't
come up with
know.
some crazy idea here.
I really don't know, but I will get back to you on that and where that money,
Well, then I'm gonna.
these are just balances, obviously based on Munis and what's in there. I don't know between 1997, if more money was, I'm assuming it was approved and put into that same fund. I don't know.
So I'm just going across on the same line. It says dollars to be spent to finish job, 13,661.
Yep.
Percent of jobs already completed is 20%.
Yep,
So you have a balance of 13,661.
that's what's in the account now,
You're
yep.
expected to only spend 13,661, and you have 80% of the
84.
job left.
That is just for that account, so I'm only at the 20% design phase, as far as I'm concerned. I can't speak to what was expended and what it was expended on. I don't have that information. I've actually looked to dig into this, and I can't find any information regarding these projects.
So we're expecting the actual project to be 350,000.
Yes, roughly.
And if there's 13,000 left in the account available balance as of 123, that means you're looking at coming up with
He said he addressed it in
$337,000
his capital plan.
out of the capital.
Right.
Yes, for this year, FY '21's capital improvement plan. is gonna offset this.
If approved.
If approved, yes.
And is that money gonna sit there for 18 years?
I-
Sorry, that was uncalled for, I apologize.
Smack him.
It's frustrating looking at this, knowing that money has been sitting there for over 20 years. And it's not just one, it's multiple, and like you said, the projects keep going up in cost. We already appropriated money and nothing got done, and I just think there's other places that we can spend money, hence my comment at the last meeting that I'd like to see something put in place to where if you come in for a capital project and it doesn't even get started for 3 years, the funding gets reverted back to the general fund and
That's
you
fair.
gotta start over again.
I agree, totally.
Any other questions for Bruce?
Through the chair, I would just ask, until these discharge meters are put in place, are we flat, is it being flat rated right now? Is it a flat rate fee?
Yes, it's actually, the previous superintendent before he left, Springfield Water and Sewer Commission, required him to do some research on what we're actually giving them. I believe he hired Tig Bond to come up with these dollar figures. So previous from FY '18, which started obviously July 1st of 2018, we were paying for, to Springfield Water and Sewer Commission, 5 million gallons a month. We are currently paying 12 million gallons a month, based on those figures that the previous superintendent gave to the Springfield Water and Sewer Commission.
So once the discharge meters are in place, obviously,
Right.
we'll have an accurate
Right, and
more
it is,
tracking method.
it is really, really close.
Yeah.
But like I said, this will give us some more accurate information moving forward.
Thanks, Bruce.
Yep.
So through the chair, one more question, Bruce. Under Maple Shade School, you have
Yep.
door replacement, phase 1 in 2018.
Yep,
Phase 2, 2019, phase 3, 2020.
yep.
And then you slide over to the project status, it says that, that completed in March of 2020?
Yep, that'll be
Contract
done next
awarded.
month.
So, I'm just curious, phase 1, we appropriated the money, did it start, or did we hold on to
No.
that? And then phase 2, we held on to that, and then we're doing it, all 3 phases all at the same time?
Right, well, what had happened, and I have a piece of paper, me and Gordon discussed this, obviously after your last meeting. So we only received partial funding in 2018 because there wasn't enough money, so we divide the project in 2. So the following year, we allocated the rest of the money, and then obviously, after meeting with the principal, the scope changed, so we've added doors, so therefore we've added that third and final phase. It was kind of a moving target, so when it comes to the school department, security changes on a year-to-year basis based on the needs in classes and everything else. And like I said, I'm not a fan of doing that, but obviously when we first initiated the program, we only got partial funding, and we knew it was gonna be a 2-phase, but then obviously after speaking with the principal and the superintendent, we decided to do a third and final phase to get everything they wanted accomplished.
Through the chair, if I recall correctly, the state police are the ones who recommend the
That's
security
right.
changes?
Yes.
Okay. The funding would come from the Mass Accelerated Repairs, some of it?
No,
None?
no, not on this project. You're
Okay.
thinking of the Meadowbrook School project. That was an MSBA project. That was the windows and doors for
Right.
Meadowbrook School.
Okay, so nothing was being paid for from that fund?
No,
Okay.
no.
Other questions?
One last question. Any update on the truck over at Hill?
Yes, it was back the end of last week, and we used it actually Sunday night for the precipitation we got on Sunday evening, so it's already out on the road again. So
Good.
thank
That was
you
a
all
quick
very
turnaround.
much. Yes, yep.
We have precipitation.
Well,
Just a
yeah,
little bit
yes. Nuisance storms. that's
Drove
what
it
I
around
call
in the rain.
Not using it isn't a bad thing, so.
Got to test it out. It's under warranty.
Okay, anything else for Bruce?
No, it's a nice report.
I
Thank
like
you.
this
Thank you.
format.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, thank you
All right.
for coming in.
Thank you.
Okay, we are past 6:30, so we are able to proceed with, go back to public hearing. And we have before us the transfer of license for GMRC Incorporated, doing business as Brigada, 621 North Main Street, to Barrera Incorporated, doing business as Casa Vallarta Family Mexican Restaurant. I will open the public hearing, and as I just stated, this is for approved transfer of license for these two entities. Council members from left to right are Richards, Page, Anderson, Hill, Kane, O'Connor, and Henry. I'll ask the clerk to read the legal notice into the record, please.
Notice is hereby given under Chapter 138 of the General Laws that Barrera Inc., DBA Casa Vallarta Family Mexican Restaurant, has applied for a liquor license transfer currently held by GMRC Inc., DBA Figuera, 621 North Main Street, East Long Meadow, Massachusetts, to Barrera Inc., DBA Casa Vallarta Family Mexican Restaurant. The Town Council will hold a public hearing on the application on Tuesday, February 11, 2020, at 6:30 p.m. in the Council on Aging Media Room, 328 North Main Street, East Long Meadow, Massachusetts. For the Council, Jean Pogletti, Town Clerk, Clerk of the Council.
Thank you. The applicant, which is the petitioner, can now present the reasons and rationale. Attorney Oppenheim?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a bit of a cold. I hope my voice holds out. I'm very pleased to be here. Greetings from Cape Cod, which is where I live. And I'm representing Barrera Inc. We're seeking the transfer of the liquor license you've just, the clerk just read the specifics of. Excuse me. I want to introduce a few people who are sitting here with me who will be hopefully doing business here in your community. First, Miguel Ramos, who's the president of the corporation. His wife, Maria Elena, who's back there waving. Juan Carlos, where's Juan Carlos? He's a director. And Raul Alegria, who is our manager, right here. And he's also here with some family members, Sandra and Eric. Dan Kelly is also here. Where's Dan? He's counsel to the seller, and Brendan Greeley, who is been the broker in this transaction. So a little bit of background. Why am I here from Falmouth, Massachusetts? Well, I'm counsel to multiple entities owned by this family. If this license is approved, this will be their 11th restaurant. Between Poughkeepsie, New York, and Saugus, Massachusetts, there's 4 or 5 restaurants in New York, 1 in Connecticut, and 4 or 5 in Massachusetts. So this is not their first rodeo, and they're very excited to hopefully be in your community. Miguel and his wife, Maria Elena, have been working in restaurants since 1995. So they have, between them, 35 years. And Jorge Ramos, who is the brother of Miguel, who is not here this evening because he is in the process of opening a restaurant in New York on the Hudson, he has 16 years of experience. Juan Carlos, who is their nephew, who is here tonight, he has 10 years experience, and our manager, Raul, has 13 years of experience. And most of these folks have started as dishwashers and busboys and at the lowest level in the restaurant employment scheme. And they have worked very hard to get to this point in their careers. Raul has worked in Massachusetts. He spent time working in Colorado and has been a bartender, a server, and most recently he's been an assistant manager of our restaurant in Brockton. He's of course TIPS certified. which is a requirement. And collectively, the people who are going to be involved in this restaurant in the management level have about 75 years of experience. They're either all first or second generation Mexican Americans. My experience of representing them since they opened a restaurant in Falmouth in 2015 is that they're extremely hardworking, they're very entrepreneurial, and very positive. And I really feel honored to be their counsel. My only regret is that I did not take Spanish in high school because I think I could be more effective as their counsel. The restaurant that is in question, I think you're familiar with, but I'd like to just quickly go through some of the facts about that restaurant. It's just under 10,000 square feet. Its seating capacity is 264 people. The parking area has 88 spaces. The main floor of the restaurant is 5,656 square feet. And the lower banquet level is 4,339 feet. The first floor is approved for 142 occupants by the town, and the lower level is approved for 90 occupants. And there is an outdoor patio area, which is obviously seasonal, which is approved for 32 people. Now, presently, the first floor, I'll show you in a moment, but the first floor has 2 bars on the present layout. Our plans in our renovation is to eliminate the smaller of the 2 bars. There will be a bar in the basement level, which will be used only when the basement level is being used. There appears to me to be ample public entrance and exits from this building. Doesn't appear to be any issues there. My clients will be renovating the interior, replacing much of the kitchen, building a wall to screen the kitchen from the dining areas, and decorating it with colorful Mexican decor. And I can attest to that, having seen several of their restaurants. Do we have copies of the menus? No? Why don't you go out and get the menus?
It's going to make us hungry.
I would like to leave you some menus, okay? It's a very extensive selection of authentic Mexican dishes. This is a child, family-friendly restaurant. There'll be birthday parties. They will sing happy birthday in Spanish if you come on your birthday. Sports teams come with their the parents who supervise the teams. There's family dinners there. All of these I have observed firsthand. We will keep our kitchen open as long as we're serving alcohol. We're asking for hours of operation of Sunday through Thursday of 11 in the morning to 11 in the evening, and Friday and Saturday evening from 11 in the morning to 12 midnight.
That's not an issue.
So my understanding is there's some local ordinances about the service of alcohol. I might need some clarification on that, but I've been told that no alcohol can be served unless a patron is seated in the restaurant or in the bar. I don't know if that's in fact the case.
On the license.
That's actually on the license.
It's on the
Yeah.
license.
It's on the license, okay, on the existing license, right. And the kitchen needs to be open as long, as alcoholic beverages are served. Okay, thank you. And no advertising on the premises that would indicate that we're serving alcohol that can be viewed from the public, or, okay, let me just quickly.
Thank you.
So these are photocopies. second page. I'm gonna just let you pass them around. Sure. Might be the best. Now, we've also applied for 2 entertainment licenses. I don't know if that's in order, Madam Chair, to
You can
Yeah,
expound
okay.
on that. That's fine.
So, my client has a mariachi band that they engage to entertain in their restaurant. It's typically a 4-person band. It's a roaming sort of situation where they go table to table. There's no amplification. The group is violin, guitar, accordion, maybe a trumpet, okay? It all depends who is there on any given evening. The entertainment is usually 1 evening a week, unless there's some special gathering where, you know, they would come in for that in particular. There's no amplified music, and we have music within the restaurant, you know, in a music system. So we would appreciate having the license that covers all 7 days, but please know that they're not there 7 days a week. They're rotating through the other restaurants that we have. I'm very happy to answer any questions you have. I wanted to make a short presentation. I can show you very quickly if you'd like. We have a floor plan. I don't know how familiar you are with the layout of the restaurant. I could walk you through that quickly if you'd like.
Sure, that'd be helpful.
So this is the exterior. I don't know what the best spot to stand with.
That's good.
That's good.
Is that okay? Shows the 88 parking spaces, shows the footprint of the building. And the sale would also include this small home here and this garage building over here. Okay?
So those are the 2 units on Barnum Street, the 2 houses on Barnum Street?
There's
20 and
just
number 30.
one house here.
Oh, okay, not.
2 addresses on Barnum.
Two addresses on Barnum, that's
Right.
correct. Yes.
30 and 20, I think?
Right.
Yes.
I mean, they're not part of this license, obviously,
No.
but I just point that out.
I just want to
Part
remind
of
the
the
council,
sale.
Part
we
of
can't
the
ask
parking.
questions yet.
Oh,
Excuse me?
They're part of the parking. I'm sorry.
We can't ask questions at this point.
I'm sorry. I take back my
Okay,
question.
Well,
that's okay.
listen, and we'll have,
That's,
I'm
I'm happy
sorry.
to answer questions.
Okay, all right.
So this shows the layout. It's not changing, the exterior. The parking, we have no changes in mind. This shows both levels of the restaurant. This is the lower level, which has been for banquets. There's a lot of storage back here. There's a second kitchen back here. There's bathrooms here, and there is a bar located right here. Halfway up, as you come out of the basement, there is an office right here on a landing, several steps up on your way out the side entrance. This is the main floor. Front entrance, there's side entrance here. The main bar area will remain as is. Seating here. This is the bar that will be eliminated. And there will be a wall or a higher wall constructed in this area so that the kitchen is not visible to the dining area. Otherwise, the floor layout is really the same. So that's the layout. There is a calculation on the first sheet here regarding the parking summary, which is 174 seats on the ground floor divided by 3 is 58 parking spaces, and the banquet area, which is 90 seats, divided by 3 is 30 parking spaces for a total of 88 spots. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. At this time, the public has the opportunity to offer input. Is there anyone in the audience this evening who would like to speak on this topic regarding the transfer? Hearing none, or seeing none, I will close the public hearing at this.
No, bring it back to the board.
Oh, that's right, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna bring it back, you're right. Bring it back now to the council. We have the opportunity now to ask questions of the applicant, and I will open the floor for that.
You want to start, or you want me to?
No, it doesn't matter. I apologize for getting excited
That's
and
quite-
asking
that's quite-
questions. One of the concerns was the parking, so I want to confirm that both 20 and 30 Barnum Street are being sold with the restaurant, so that the parking that is connected to those parcels will be available to the restaurant use?
Yes.
Okay. I have one other question.
Keep going.
The deck that is proposed on the plan, there is a deck, at least, it's on the first floor. Will there be alcoholic beverage service on that deck?
I believe that's what my client would want, yes.
Okay. So the licensing would obviously cover that particular area. Is there any knowledge, and I realize you're going to be renovating, but can your client or can you give us some idea how you will secure the deck so that the alcoholic beverages stay on the deck, that children can't get up there, plus the alcoholic beverages won't end up in the parking lot, where patrons might be leaving that deck area?
Okay. So I can tell you that in the Falmouth restaurant that they have 2 decks, 2 patios, and patios have railings, and the food and beverages are served within that area by, people who are trained, tips trained. I don't know, if there will be families, I'm sure, that will be out in that area, as there are families throughout the restaurant. I guess with the exception of those that would be sitting, I would assume they would not take their children to the bar. But if they're sitting in the patio area or the deck and they're ordering food, they may also order an alcoholic beverage. Is there concern about that?
There's a concern because of the information that we've reviewed for this liquor license transfer, that there was documentation of 3 violations previously with service to minors. One was a 6-day suspension, one was
Warning.
2 warnings.
1-day suspension, and then no suspension but a warning.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously that's a concern for the town of East Long Meadow
Right.
in terms of protecting our minors.
Well, let me speak to that, okay? Those were, ABCC sting operations where they come in with underage people with IDs, phony IDs. And we have purchased and will be purchasing the most sophisticated scanning machine for this restaurant. It's $5,000 because the out-of-state IDs are particularly hard to track, okay? So I guess I would say, and try to put this in context, we have 9 operational restaurants spread from New York to north of Boston, and the number of infractions are 3. And so, Are we proud that, you know, we've had those three? No, absolutely not. But the reality is that, you know, it is very, very difficult to screen everyone. And we try very hard. And everyone has to provide an ID who's ordering an alcoholic beverage.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Other questions?
Through the chair. While we're on that subject, the piece of equipment that you said you purchased, have you purchased it as of yet? or-
No, we don't, we're not going to purchase anything until we have our license.
Okay,
I mean,
have you
really-
purchased that piece of equipment for any of the other
Oh,
establishments?
yes, we have.
Okay, so it's for authentication of the license purposes or
Yes.
identification
Right,
card, correct?
Right. So after the infraction in Falmouth, you know, we learned of this more sophisticated piece of equipment. We went out and bought it. Because I argued before the ABCC that we did scan the licenses. And the investigator agreed. You know? I mean, he was there. He saw what went on. It wasn't as if there was, you know, nonfeasance or even malfeasance in that regard. But they said we have a higher standard when it comes to out-of-state IDs, and these people were given out-of-state IDs to use within the bar.
So the next question I have is, what other restaurant do you have? What restaurant is in the closest proximity to East Long Meadow?
So we have a restaurant in Hamden, Connecticut, which is where Miguel and Elena live. We have a restaurant in Northborough, Massachusetts, which is, you know, not far, in Grafton, in Brockton, in Saugus, and Falmouth, which is, I guess, quite far. And then several in New York, which are, you know, even further away.
So the violations we're talking about all took place in the Falmouth location, did you say?
No, we
Saugus
itemized
and
them,
Falmouth.
you know, one was in Saugus,
Oh.
one was in Falmouth, and I
Grafton.
forget, Grafton.
Grafton.
Grafton was the third one.
Okay.
And this is over, you know, obviously a number of years.
Thank you.
So through the chair.
Sure.
I have a number of questions. Do you want me to break it up and let other counselors go in
Go.
between after? First, this property is under special permit. Have you been through the planning board and received a special permit or anything? Have you dealt with the planning board of East Long Meadow yet?
Nope.
That would be something that, personally, I would have a hard time approving a liquor license when we don't know if they're going to approve the facilities and what the requirements are. I know the previous special permit, which I had a chance to read today, did not allow for service on the deck, and that's the one that's currently in effect. I don't know what the planning board would allow. The deck area was only to be used for smoking. I've read through your application. I have a couple concerns. I didn't see where currently the property, who it's actually being sold to. Under the application for the liquor license, under Section 8, you state the landlord will be Ortega LLC,
That's correct.
but under the commercial lease, it says Ramos Real Estate LLC, and that they will be leasing it to Barrera, Inc. So there's-
Ortega LLC will be the title holder of the real estate, and they will be leasing to Barrera, Inc. So I apologize.
So the
if there's
commercial
an-
lease is inaccurate at this time. I didn't find, when I went on to the state's website and I pulled up Ortega LLC, is that a corporation that hasn't been created yet?
Not yet.
That
Okay.
explains it.
So just to be clear, you know, all of this is pending, you know, approval by this board and then approval by the ABCC. So, you know, we're not going to organize beyond where we're organized until we have everyone's blessing.
Do you have others, Ralph? Keep going.
To the apartment?
Currently, there is a second floor in the building.
That's correct.
With an apartment in it. Is that
That's correct.
something, obviously you haven't been through the planning board yet, so I would think that they would want a site plan of the entire building, showing where the apartment is, first floor, what's gonna be on it, and second floor, what's gonna be on it. For the simple reason, the fire department, God forbid there's a fire in the restaurant, when they show up, they're gonna wanna know that there's living quarters up above. I looked for an occupancy permit for that apartment, and I was told by our building commissioner that currently there isn't one, but that it's a simple fix because they know the apartment's been there. I just think these are little ends that have to be taken care of before we go through anything. I noticed on, I've got papers everywhere. Miguel A. Ramos was previously listed as Miguel Ramos Medina on another corporation. Can you?
Same guy.
Same person. So it's an AKA. He's in the past gone by both names.
Yes.
So my thought is we do a Corey check. It should be on both
names.
names. So this is a license. Cuatro Amigos, Inc. is listed on the application as far as being in Grafton. The name on the license is Cuatro Amigos, but under 6A of the permit, under license name, there is no Cuatro Amigos as being someone that's involved with the corporation. I'm just curious what the discrepancy is.
Well, without going through the application, the applicant is Barrera, Inc.
Right. 6A is any interest in alcoholic beverages licenses, if they've ever had any in the past. And you've got it listed that they've had a warning, which means obviously they've had a liquor license,
Right.
but it doesn't list them as ever having any activity with a license. I'm just curious, maybe are they a promissory note holder or something? And
I
that's
think
how
they
they're
may be
involved with
lending
it?
money to help finance the acquisition and improvements. But I can check on that.
It's a simple one, there's a spell check too. On page 1 of the license, it's a DBA Vallarta with 1 L. On page 6, it's got 2. And I know this was a switch before. Barrera used to be.
2 L's.
Yeah. And if I remember right, Barrera was originally from what I could see in the documentation, the corporation, they changed the name to Casa Velarde Family Mexican Restaurant, and then it went back to Barrera through the
Okay,
corporate
so
transactions.
Casa Vallarta is the DBA. If you go to any one of these other restaurants that I've mentioned, you'll see Casa Vallarta Mexican Family Restaurant. And each restaurant is a separate corporate entity, primarily for liability reasons.
Parking is taken care of.
I think you got them all.
I think I hit most of them.
Yeah. Maybe someone else has something to say.
But again, in my opinion, I don't think this board can act on this tonight without it going through the special permit process to make sure that
So-
we're actually giving a license to a location that's under special permit that can take it again. And by the way, the special permit, I did read it carefully today. The last one that was issued, the special permit cannot be transferred.
Correct.
So it would be a new special
Right.
permit taken out for that location.
Wow, that's highly unusual. I mean, I don't doubt what you're saying, but it's highly unusual. If it's been, has a special permit as a restaurant, with, whatever specifications are there, that we would have to redo that whole process to reaffirm it. But if that's what's required, then we're going to have to do that. But hopefully you can issue the license subject to, getting the approval of the planning board. If that's what.
I don't have an issue with it if they do, if it's a contingent approval, because we hold the license. They'll come back to us and then we release it.
We also, some of our concerns I forwarded to our attorney yesterday, and he needs more time to investigate some of the concerns, although a couple of them you've resolved for us this evening. So I would myself be in agreement with Mr. Page that it's probably best to continue, but the rest of the council may weigh in on that.
No, I would agree with you. I think there's too many loose ends to make it contingent upon anything until we get some things nailed down here.
I mean, if it helps, I've put it all in line with bullet points. I can combine it with Maryland's, and we can get it to the attorney.
Sure.
If that would help. I've got some bullet points and all that way there, the application can be adjusted and all.
You're okay with moving it to the next postponing? Okay. Can one of you make a motion?
I'll make a motion to move to continue the public hearing for the transfer of the license from GMRC Inc. DBA Figuera to Barrera Inc. DBA Casa Villalta Family Mexican Restaurant to February 25th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. The hearing is continued then, sir, till,
So,
2
Madam Chair,
weeks.
just a question.
yes.
Is the expectation that we get before the planning board between now and February 26th?
I would definitely start the process.
I would start the process, but we know that you would not get on their docket. I see a planning board member in the audience, so I'm going to defer to Mr. Torsia.
I'm not sure exactly when the deadline is, but usually it's like about a week out. So my guess is they may have missed it already. And even so, it might go beyond one meeting. There's no definite that it would be resolved within one meeting.
So realistically, the first part of March, maybe?
2 weeks public notice.
Okay.
Good, better approach.
And, through the chair, my comments are, I still think, I've been researching this entity, and it seems to be very a welcome addition to East Long Meadow. And in my opinion is, having been a former planning board person, that if we can get the bullet points resolved, a conditional approval, again, because we're the
Well, that's-
holder of the license, will be fine.
Yeah, that's feasible on the
Because
25th.
as long as they understand that, because they go through the whole site plan process, and then having a doubt that the council would transfer the license, I think that would,
I think we can do a
I think that would be
conditional.
fair to the business.
I'm just concerned as far as conditional, whether or not, as far as the license itself basically says where on the premise the alcohol can be served.
Right.
And so if we approve conditional a license and then find out from the planning board that
That's not
that's not allowed or something, and again, I think that's
It's
something.
Yeah,
something
I
that
just
could be
think in
adjusted.
terms of, if I were representing a
Exactly.
business, and I'm going, okay, I'm gonna go through this whole site plan process and all the detail,
Yeah.
but what if the council doesn't give me the liquor license? And then so I think there should be a level of comfort, even if it means a modification of the approval, but at least something that if we hit those those bullet points, they'll at least get a feeling of comfort going
We're having a
forward,
discussion now.
that the council, except for reasonableness from, public input from the special permit, would request a modification. But I would like, I think it's fair as, for a business owner to at least get that from the council, because otherwise you're walking out here going, wait a minute, where are we with these guys? You know, and I think that, we can do that. It's our very next meeting, the 25th. Next week's the holiday and week, not that it really affects us, but that's our next meeting, is the first available
And the
spot.
goal would be to clear up Mr. Page's
Questions.
preliminary concerns.
Right.
And
And
any other concerns raised by our
And to hear
council.
from our attorney.
and the
Right.
council. Okay.
That's,
Well,
that's
and
what I thought I was
Would you
going
be
to.
sharing with me those concerns before the next meeting, or only at the meeting?
We can, if we know them prior, yes, they can be shared.
Yeah, that would be good. If perhaps
Yeah.
I could know about them ahead of time,
Sure.
I can address them.
Talk among ourselves. We can get-
We have not finished the vote.
Yes, we did.
Hmm?
We did.
No, I.
Right, we
We
haven't,
were-
no,
we were in
right,
the
right,
discussion.
we haven't-
Discussion,
right, we're
so-
still in discussion.
Is discussion finished?
It's finished.
Okay. All those in favor of continuing the public hearing till February 25th at 6:30? Is it 6:30? 6:45. Please say aye.
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 Opposed? Please say nay. And continuance passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that information will be
Excuse
given
me,
to you.
Did you
Thank
continue
you
at
very much.
6:45?
Yes.
I
Thank
believe
you.
it's February 25th.
Do we
Oh.
have the attorney's email address?
Yes.
Is it 6:30 or
I'm sorry, it's 6:30.
6:30?
On 6:30. That's my error.
Then we need to,
I'll make a motion to amend the prior motion
Right.
that the public hearing be continued till the 25th, right here at 6:30 PM.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So that correction is at 6:30, 2 weeks from tonight. Thank you for all of
Thank
that
you.
information.
Thank you guys, have a good night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very
Thank
much
you.
for coming all the way out.
Okay.
Now your face is going to get all red.
We are now to old business, 9C, proposed council goals. You have that in your packet. As requested, I aggregated all of the various goals that were submitted and tried to list them for you by frequency, as well as attach everyone so that you could see what is everyone's feeling about priorities. The goal with the highest frequency was to develop the annual budget for FY '21. As well, also receiving equal frequency is our social media / general outreach to improve communication and transparency. In descending order, next, the master plan, developing one or getting off the ground with it. I know that a committee has been established, but I don't believe a whole lot of traction has occurred yet with that. Another one is a calendar of council deadlines, and finally, protocols for council communications. So with that said, and knowing that we have to come up with some goals that we can certainly work on and in perfect world achieve by July 1st, my caution would be that we take on fewer than more, knowing that all of the information submitted by the council still can be adapted and become part of our goals for July 1st going forward. Questions, comments?
comment, master plan, we're well on the way.
You
I
are.
received an email today from the Planning and Community Development Director.
Okay.
That we've received a Delta grant, and the Delta grant will help us, the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission will be hired, I guess is the way, will help us,
Retained, yeah.
retained, to help us
With
with
housing.
an inclusionary housing and affordable housing and the housing aspect of the
Okay.
town through the master plan.
Sure. What, beyond what you just stated, what else needs to be done to say that the master plan is well on its way to being?
We
Does Connor know? He's on the
have
committee.
someone that's on the
Okay.
committee, if you'd like to
Mr.
ask him how we're doing.
O'Shea, you're on the committee. Can you give us just a quick update, if you don't mind being put on the spot?
At one of the planning board meetings a few weeks back, they suspended the master plan until a potential capital project could be approved for
Okay.
next fiscal year.
That's
So
what
at the
I
moment,
understood.
there's nothing happening with the master plan.
Okay. However, you're saying that you got notice of this, so that's a good,
It's one facet of
Right.
a
One
huge
facet,
project.
right,
yeah.
Right,
it's
right.
still something to.
In the right direction.
Right, get,
Right.
put in the plus column. Okay.
Okay.
Great, thank
Cool.
you. What are everyone's thoughts on how to embrace some goals here?
Through the chair, my thought would be, obviously, we have to complete the annual budget. So that's a priority,
Okay.
in my opinion, and probably our number one goal for the balance of this year.
And through the chair, the second matter was social media, and again, it's just, I'm glad, Ryan's here as well as, and Jeannie, is we need to come up with this, some type of strategy to get our meetings and so forth easily scanned into JPEGs, and maybe get it over to, say, Rob Fitzpatrick or somebody who's running a social media page, so that they can post it up and easy to read, because we all recognize that the links to our Facebook page, to our website, are just a little convoluted, and that's just the way it's always going to be until we get a new contract. But in the interim, we get something like this, scan it, turn it into a JPEG, send it over to a social media connection, because there's plenty of really good grassroots social media things out there, pages out there, East Long Meadow forums and so forth, and get it out there and have it posted, and we can start with council, we can start with planning board and maybe school committee, and then to branch it to subcommittee someday, but at least get that. That'll be, that's a very easily attainable goal, just to get agendas out so that we can get even better attendance in there for our meetings in the future.
Through the chair, that opportunity would dispel the fact that we're a secret government and that we have a mayor. I mean, we
Yeah.
all think Kathy's the mayor, but
No.
she's really not.
Yeah.
So, we really need to work on something to get a message out,
Yeah,
to
through the
reach a
chair,
different.
I would agree with that, with both of those statements, but how are we gonna fund this?
Fund the.
If we're going to an outside source to do work
Right,
for the
we-
town,
yeah, we'd have
we need to
that money.
appropriate the money.
Right.
We haven't done that yet, and we're
Right.
still in the budget process.
Are we talking about the social media part?
Communication, yes.
Oh, no, I bought a $7 program over here that I could do it, but I shouldn't be the one doing it. It should be somewhere over here to convert it,
People at that table.
Is that how we do it?
So it's very easy. Whoever created this form, save it as a JPEG.
I understand that.
And send it. We don't need to hire anyone for that.
Send it where?
Send it to a social media liaison. I mean, I mentioned Rob Fitzpatrick. He happens to be running one. It doesn't have to be him. It could be anybody who's out there. Many of us are on those forums. And
So-
just get it out there and post.
Well,
If I could through the chair, it should come on the town of East Long Meadow Facebook page as the official report, and then we can encourage the administrators of those other groups
To share it.
to share it from the town page. A lot of
Right,
them
I
do.
would
Yeah.
agree
A lot
with
of them
that.
do.
So that it doesn't
and just
somehow
has
get
to be the-
modified.
Let's
Right,
just do try it, since we have a short window, let's just try it with council, planning board, and school committee for the time being. And then expand it to other subcommittees. And let's see if that will generate some more buzz and get, even more citizens involved in showing up to our meetings. And that's, like I said, we wanted something that's attainable. It isn't that difficult.
So I'm looking at the two folks over here
Yes,
who are
me
gonna
too.
be the middlemen, women.
It could be just another step to posting the meeting,
Okay,
but I think Ryan's saying they have to come to the town's
We get that,
medium to
yes.
do that, so
We
I don't
want
know
it
how
to
you-
filter
Right.
through.
If I had specifics and steps to do it, of course we can do it along with our postings, but I would need specifics. Like,
Well, that sounds like, we've got
think it's
4
something
months.
we can
We
work
can
on.
try. I mean,
Okay.
it's a goal that we can get our teeth into, or-
Right.
and give it 4 months and 5 months and see what develops from it. Fair.
Yeah, the only other question would be, you know, every committee has a different agenda that looks differently, or
Right.
would the council want us, the actual postings, you get them in a PowerPoint?
Not anymore, since we don't have the screen
Oh, right.
outside the library.
So do you get them in like what they actually look like?
Most of them come.
We'll make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, something
We'll
like
talk
this,
about
you
it.
have to, these are physically posted in the town building, correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right, all you have to do is take this, scan it, and either save it as a PDF or a JPEG.
We do that already to send to you electronically through Friday. You
Exactly,
get
and
the
then and
PDF.
convert it from the PDF to a JPEG, and put that, just simply agendas for the 3 as a trial basis. Convert it and put it on the page, and then let's do reach out to people that run the social media boards to see, and encourage them to share. That's all.
I don't know how you do that, but you could.
He-
Yeah, I'm looking at Ryan, because I know he's on some of those boards, and we
Okay.
appreciate that, thank you.
Picking up where Tom left off on the
Yes.
budget.
Yes.
I think that it's nice to say develop an annual budget, but really that's up to them. We
But we
need
do
to
participate in it with
yeah,
our
We
finance.
need to try to define what it is that we want specifically, or maybe give them some specific direction on
Direction,
the annual
Right.
budget.
And we will do that probably,
That's,
I'm thinking in my head, the February 25th agenda is getting full.
Medium, not too
Medium.
bad.
Well, if not then absolutely the first March meeting, we will need to give that direction to our manager. What the parameters our expectation for financial parameters, or percentages and
and
whatnot.
maybe help her avoid what we've been through in the past.
Oh, yes, she's got some specific ideas on how to
Avoid,
structure the process so it's a little more streamlined and collaborative from the get-go.
Other subject, master plan, I'd like to go back to that.
Yes.
I put that down as a goal because actually we've lost 2 years already with the mixed-use development
Mhm.
project and wanting to incorporate some information from a
Mhm.
master plan with this project. That being said, you hear people speak against master plans because they're an expensive document that's never used. A master plan is as good as the bylaw that's created to support what's ever recommended in the plan. I mean, they're guidelines, but unless you proactively use that, it's a waste of money, to be honest with you. So I need to put that piece out there, and I'm not saying that's my opinion, but we have heard from Connor that the plan, and I knew that the plan has been shelved for the planning board, and now there's a request, I believe, for capital, but.
Well, it would have to go through the
Exactly.
capital process, which is, I think, underway. I'm looking at Ryan. You've submitted?
Capital process?
Only from the,
Because you're the man.
The capital
no,
process is yes,
not because
underway.
he's the interim manager, he's, as a department head, you've made your submittals already.
Yeah, I thought you were referring to the planning capital request.
No,
but
I
yes,
meant in general.
The process is underway.
Capital requests are already into the manager, and she's about ready
Okay.
to be dealing with that.
So my thoughts on it are, if we value this as a shared goal with the planning board to embrace bringing our master plan into the current century, if you will, perhaps it can be set up that we can divide it within, say, 2 fiscal years or 3 fiscal years, so the entire amount doesn't have to be spent the first year. Perhaps it can be done in stages, so that, because it takes 2.5 years to do a master plan anyway, that we could divide
Right,
out the
that's-
cost. So I'm gonna plant that seed.
Okay.
Okay.
And through the chair, one more comment on the budget.
Mm-hmm.
I think a good start would also be something that was within our control, is to go back and create our finance committee as we did last year, which I thought worked very well. And get that convened and up and running sooner rather than later.
Agreed.
Excellent idea.
Yes.
That's a great idea.
If they're willing to serve.
Right. Okay, am I hearing any consensus on 2 goals that are doable by July 1st?
I would offer to develop protocols so we could have 3, because I don't think that would take long to develop the protocols and send them around.
Okay, something for us to react to.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, fair. All right, so somebody make a motion. It's not on, I don't believe you. No, we have to.
I move we adopt 3 goals from this list.
Mhm.
Develop the annual budget, the social media general outreach, and the protocols for council communication, and work to finalize these as soon as possible.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Please say nay. Okay, we have 3 goals. And we hang on to that document, those documents, because they will probably fuel our goals for
For next-
July 1.
A lot of good ideas in there.
Yes. All right, we are now to D, 9D, new business, the Heritage Park Plan. We have some folks with us this evening, so welcome aboard.
Can we take a 5-minute?
Yes, we can take a 5-minute break while they get assembled. We're,
Thank you.
yeah. Thank you, lady and gentlemen. Good evening.
Hi, thanks for having us. We are still chipping away on the Heritage Park project proposal. We keep running into the red roadblocks because really what we need is to have quotes. We need to have a plan. We need to have all the things that take money. And so before we can get to the next step to present plans and quotes, we need the money, the seed money to do it. So we're here tonight not asking to build anything, tear anything down, but just to get the funds that we need to hire the people to tell us what we need to know. I mean, I know that there's some people in the CPC, they're frustrated because they just want us to have quotes. What's this gonna cost? 3 quotes. But we can't get the 3 quotes without getting an architect to help us get to that spot. So when the field study was done back in 2016, it has on there that they are probable cost. So what we tried to do is we tried to use the $25,000 from CPC that was already spent to get us to the next step. But that's not what we're being told that we need. We need quotes, and to do that we need an architect. So that's why we're back here tonight.
Thus the chicken or the egg.
Questions from the council?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
I thought the presentation that we received was very good.
Yep.
The materials that we had explained it to my satisfaction, that you were looking for something reasonable, something that's a next step, and you made a good argument.
Okay. This is a joint meeting, CPC and the Rec Commission, because the CPC made the recommendation to the council, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So my question is basically going to be directed, nothing personal, but more towards the CPC. On our town's website, there's a listing. The listing says that applications for projects will be open till April 1st. They're to be submitted through the town manager. On April 1st, you guys take a look at all submitted projects, and then you take a vote on which ones you choose to support. I'm curious why that wasn't followed. I mean, we're way away from April 1st to where there could be multiple other issues coming in.
So,
Yeah, he probably should come up.
So
Yeah.
as you all might know, I've only been the chair for the last 2 meetings.
His name.
I've only been a member.
John, just state your name and stuff. so that-
John Torsia, 79 Tompkins Ave, CPC chair. So I've only been the chair for the last 2 meetings. I've only been on the board itself for the last 4. So when we were having this discussion last week, you know, there was a debate, an interpretation, an argument that this was an amendment to a previous vote that had been taken place, and there wasn't necessarily actual dollars appropriated. There was $300,000 that was like, we support the idea of $300,000 going towards this in the future, but there was never hard money for it. So the argument that was made, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, was that it was more of an amendment to that larger project that had been previously made. And that was my interpretation of, or the interpretation that I was told, and from what the other members had said. But I think one good person that would be good to maybe know some more information about, Bill Kaplan. He was the chair previous to me, so he knew a little bit more information, you know, than I would, considering I'm still very new, so I don't want to give any misinformation, just from what that was presented to me.
So, Mr. Kaplan, can you shed some light on what Mr. Torsch is asking about the around the issue of the 300,000 that was earmarked, recommended, whatever? Those are my words.
Madam Chair, I'm Bill Kaplan, 16 Broadleaf Circle in East Longmeadow. Been on the CPC for 5 or 6 years. And one of the earlier meetings, the one that's being referred to, there was $300,000 that was not voted on, but it was supported by the CPC. And then that was, I think it was May of 17 or May of 18?
18.
May of 18, thank you. And then a number of months later, we had another meeting where the CPC came with which there was some confusion. Was it a new proposal? Was it an amendment to the one that was there? But it was for $901,000. And so there's a little confusion there. And at the last meeting, excuse me, I was the administrative person taking notes. At the last meeting, they came to the CPC with another proposal, and Jonathan has it there, for $300,000. So there was some confusion about which proposal went towards what. As for the amount that they're talking about now, and frankly, everything they have to say is phenomenal. It's wonderful. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and very possibly that $113,101 may be ideal. The procedure, I think, was the biggest concern as to where it started, how it came to the CPC, and were the next request changes, amendments, or new proposals. And yes, there were questions brought up about, Councilor Page had said that, excuse me, that our next deadline is April 1. And that was discussed. There were inferences made that this was it was an amendment to the prior proposal. So there was confusion as to where it actually stood.
Did the application state that it was an amendment to the?
I don't think it did.
May I make a? Thank you.
I want to let Mr. Torsch answer.
Oh.
So
I was present.
I unfortunately, I had been handed this during at the beginning of the meeting, so I did not have enough time to completely verify that it was an amendment, but I do know that previous project was in place. I had a very good meeting with Donna and Jordy back in December to sort of discuss the parameters of what we would be discussing in the future. We didn't schedule a November meeting. I had offered to have a meeting and a discussion about this in December, but I think there were some issues on their end. It's not able to attend that meeting that evening. I offered again in January, but on our end, we weren't going to be able to reach quorum because we are down a few members. So February was the next kind of conceivable time. So I wasn't given this until the meeting before. I was given the first page, I believe, right before what would be our January meeting, but some of the meat of it, I didn't get to go through until last week.
Mr. Kay?
Yes, Madam Chair. One point I'd like to make is, this was voted on May of 2018 by the CPC, right? That is documented in board notes that are published, set aside by our town accountant for the $300,000. It has been done. Mr. Kaplan was not Mr. Kaplan was not present at that meeting in May of 2018. Mr. Torsha was not a member of that.
Right.
That's why I'm commenting to this.
Okay.
And other people who are commenting were not members of that board at that time. It was constituted of Tom O'Brien, myself, Tom K, not okay. All right. And George Kingston was our chair at that time. And I think Jeannie was our administrative assistant or administrative note taker. And off the top of my head, I'm trying to recollect. But I do know that this was voted on at that time. And we came in front of this group to figure out if we can have the monies at CPC said, okay, $300,000. Now we need to start. We had spent $25,000 on a feasibility study already. All right, that was built in 2016. That was earmarked and earmarked and earmarked, right? And we went to the town accountant to figure out how to extrapolate the numbers, use a 3% inflation rate, right? Look at the grander picture, asked by the town manager to go in front of everybody and say, this is what we need in total. I mean, I'm just a volunteer here, guys. I'm so frustrated with this process. We've tried and tried and tried. All we are is trying to improve a park. Okay?
I don't think anybody here challenges the merits of the
Can I
project.
just say, I'm not trying to speak at a meeting that I wasn't a member of.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of trying to give information regarding the meeting that happened last week.
Right.
And, I said to Donna when we had met, I've said to others, I don't want something like that to happen in the future. I want to try and, at least while I'm chair, while I'm a member, try and prevent that, to have it go through in a timely manner, well discussed, well thought out, and I'm excited about this proposal.
It's a very good one.
I just want to be here to answer questions if there's questions about process or what's in it or what other CPC members may have thought, considering not all of us are here this evening, but I want to try and best represent our committee.
I just want to state that though what you say, Mr. Kay, about it being approved at the CPC level, that may all well be.
That's why we're here.
But I don't have a recollection that this body took a vote on that.
Never did.
Help me out here.
You never did.
Okay.
So
So- Go ahead.
So funding was never set aside. The CPC said, you know what, I know you guys are gonna go out and get grants and all. We have X amount of dollars. We would recommend no more than 300,000. But the council never took a vote to approve $300,000.
Correct.
So that money can't even be set aside in CPC until the council votes on it. So it's my opinion that what's in front of us tonight is a brand-new proposal. Let's forget about the 300,000 for now. This proposal was submitted, it says Heritage Park Project Proposal on 2/5/20.
You wonder why
And it's
people don't want to
100 and
volunteer on
something
boards.
thousand.
It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
So it's my thought that the CPC is making a recommendation that this council spend $113,000 for these services to be done at Heritage Park.
We recommend the project. I could go on about the benefits, and we fully support them. This is not,
The merits of the project speak for themselves. We don't challenge that. We just want to be clear on what steps are taken to follow the rules properly, that's all.
No, and I was trying to, follow the rules as best as I was approached with the time constraints that we have, because it obviously, we only have the library until 8, so we sort of had to make a decision on things, and with a kind of an expedited group of voting members, we had, you need 5 for a quorum, and we only had 5, so everybody needed to agree on each motion. So it was a little confusing, but I'm not trying to stand in opposition to it. I was just trying to ask questions about it. I thought we had a very thoughtful discussion, and I was very happy with their presentation that they had given to us that evening.
My other concern is, or question is around the town accountant. Has Ms. Menard been brought into the loop on this? Mr. Kay mentioned having met with the accountant, but I think he was speaking about that initial 300,000 project.
I can speak on that.
Sure.
Because when we went through this in May of 18, we didn't have it right. So what we wanted to do is that we wanted to get it right. So Bill Kaplan, Marilyn Richards, Jordy and I, Tom Kay, we sat down with Sarah just to say, what do we need to do? What, not as far as the process. I mean, we weren't, I just want to get the process right myself.
I'm speaking about this 113,000. Has Sarah Menard been involved in this?
No,
piece?
I emailed her a copy, but I have not talked to her about it.
Well, that gives me pause.
Well, I need to...
In the process, see, that's the piece.
Okay. Through the chair, I sent an email to Sarah Menard over the weekend. After the Wednesday meeting, CPC meeting, I was there as an interested party. I'm in support of CPC. I support John for taking over when I had to resign because of my position here. And Bill Kaplan had to resign because he's a registrar and can't serve on CPC. So we are there to support because it's an important committee. And I experienced what took place at that meeting, and I left with a little bit of an uncomfortable feeling because I felt that while I understand the passion of what's happening here and the support of the project, and I support what's happening, however, the process in of itself, the application came in, the committee members didn't have a chance to read it. I informed the committee that you're a 9-member body, and lawfully any votes tonight, because there are 5 present, have to be unanimous. And so there was pressure on the committee that if a vote was taken, they didn't want to be the one person to vote against because the vote would fail. There was also the indication that this is a partial application from the previous 300,000 that had been approved. And I was in the audience when the council took that up, and I know the end result of that particular action. And so it was just difficult. So I reached out to Sarah and asked her if she had been involved with the financial end of CPC and how this would sort of play out to what we experienced Wednesday evening. And she didn't get back to me until this afternoon. It was by cell phone while she was in her car driving home. And she referenced a meeting between you, Donna Prather, Jordy, and Joe Ford. And I don't know, and CPC wasn't present for that meeting. Did I misunderstand? And I'm not trying to
Yeah.
embarrass anybody or throw anyone under the bus. I'm just trying to understand what Sarah said. There was a meeting?
Yes.
Between?
Yes, there was.
Okay.
Yep.
And so my thought at that time, well, why wasn't CPC, or even the chairman, involved as a courtesy for this meeting? Because you were discussing the issue of this application, which, by the way, in fairness to CPC, we were asked, and I was still on the committee at the time, to take Heritage Park off the agenda until further notice. And so we did. And so there was no thwarting on the part of CPC because we were requested not to put it on the agenda, and so we honored that. And our understanding was you were going to be hopefully putting into place some grant funding or looking for information about, or at least revisiting what your plan was.
Right.
My conversation with Sarah, she indicated that there was money from CPC to fund the $113,000.
This is the conversation you had today.
Today, right. That the budget that was in this plan, which we have, the numbers were reached by taking those items from the original feasibility study.
Correct.
And then basically applying a formula to bring them into more current dollars. And I understood all that, which comes to 1.155 million. And then 113 is the 10% architectural cost. That all makes sense. Sarah indicated that she saw no problem in, and I sure hope Sarah, when she watches this, that I'm saying this correctly, that she saw no problem in the council approving the money this evening, and then going out for an RFP to solicit funds or solicit quotes for the architectural design for this project, so then you can move forward. What, as a former committee member for CPC, and then hearing this process and my experience with not one, not two, but 3 applications coming before CPC for parts of this project, I'm confused because we have always been told, you know, before the CPC spends any money, or should say recommends, they vet the project. And there was no vetting last Wednesday night.
Okay.
You know that. And so it left a very awkward situation all the way around because CPC has the fiduciary responsibility to vet the funds to be able to then make a recommendation to this board. And so that's the information. Council members, I don't know where we go from here. The project bears support. However, you know, there's just no vetting, and there were no quotes to consider. And my question is, what is the difference by going out for an RFP last week versus next week, now that you have a vote of support from CPC? I mean, what does that vote of support allow you to do to go out for an RFP?
Because I've been told, and anybody can help me, is that we can't ask, it's going to be hard for us to ask a vendor to give us a quote when we have no money to support it.
You mean?
Bruce, can you help me on that?
I mean,
Sorry,
I've never.
Bruce.
Yes and no. I mean, it's small dollar figures. I mean, just like the police feasibility study was $25,000, but the costs are probably minimal for an RFP, probably a couple $1,000s for advertisement, legal advertisement, things like that. And I actually met with Donna last year because we started the RFP process for the Heritage Park, but we never continued for some reason. I don't know what that reason was. So that is a possibility to go out to solicit an engineering firm based on a project, but like you said, if you don't have the entire project designed properly and what you want, it's really hard to get an engineering firm or architectural firm to give you a price if you don't know what you're doing. I mean, you can get it just a per cost per square footage or something like that with an RFP, but it's not going to give you the correct information to do so.
And I'm more than willing to, because I don't want to keep wasting your time or the
You're not
CPT.
wasting it, no.
But if there was a cheat sheet that could tell me, because every time I go through this process, I'm told, well, that's not the right process. So I just need, just give me a list of what I need to do, and I can check it off, because, you know, I didn't realize until this week that I needed to go through Sarah first. I mean, I just need a checklist.
So if I can just jump in a minute. when you realized that you needed to have a meeting with Sarah Menard, did you ask for it? You asked her, and then who invited the people there and did not, and inadvertently excluded someone from CPC?
No, Donna, that meeting was in October.
Yes.
The meeting with Sarah was in October for her to give us a list of what to do when.
Right, it was.
had nothing to do with this, yeah.
It was just trying to, we're trying to get the checklist from somebody on how to do this right.
So she was trying to help, okay.
Yes.
Right, okay.
In October,
Right,
not yesterday.
right.
So, through the chair, just a couple questions.
Okay.
When Heritage Park is all done,
I will be.
expect it to look like, and if you have a rough idea. I mean, obviously, I saw the plans, I saw what the $25,000 study and all bought. I believe the rec commission had made a recommendation for one of the 3 plans that was submitted. And I believe the total cost is $4.5 million for the whole project, if we're able to get everything, all the bells and whistles. So what you're asking for is only an architectural cost to do the road, the grading.
Yes.
Stuff DPW may be interested in. So for phase 1, it says we're looking to clear some trees, grade the ground, create a one-way traffic pattern, create parking, drainage, and irrigation. So under that, we're not talking any installation of fields, no amphitheater, no. It's basically just to get the place access ready.
No,
so that
it
we
would
can
be,
get up and at
it would be the drainage, it would be the fields.
Two
Two
fields. 2 fields. Yeah, it was omitted from that email. I questioned the same thing, but the document addresses 2 fields.
Okay.
Right.
And as far as the big project, I can't give you an answer on that, just because I don't know what the public wants. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say that, we threw out some ideas based on the plan, but I can't sit here and say that we want an amphitheater for sure. It sounds great,
Yeah.
but we have to have the public, the 2 fields we know the public support. We have,
And that was the plan that the commission had said, yes, this is the way we want to go, if I remember right. It was up in the back, it was
Yes.
like a 2-tier parking up near
Right.
the field.
yeah, yeah, there's the map in here.
So, I mean, looking at a lot of this, and I'm gonna, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
I will put our superintendent on the spot here a little bit. Is this, or any of these things that the DPW can help work with, or do we have to go out and get an outside company to do all of that?
I mean, I can do rough estimates as far as engineering purposes. I do have kind of a boilerplate for, as far as building a field and everything else, depending on cuts and fills and everything else with gravel burrows, price per cubic yards, everything else. But when it comes to drainage and doing engineering for wetland delineations, all that
No.
stuff.
I meant after the architectural plans are done.
Yep.
And some of the work needs to be done. Is this something, I know you guys have done the dumps and stuff like that. to
Oh,
put the
us
gravel
doing the
road?
construction work?
Exactly.
No,
Okay.
absolutely not.
That's what I'm asking. And
Yep,
so
okay,
that
sorry.
would go out, okay.
I also have a question. It came up at the CPC meeting about the fact that this proposal, which absolutely addresses a need that this community has, does not include any lighting at all. And there was, you know, I understand that it's cost prohibitive, that piece alone. But I also am asking, is there any way that any conduits and things can be put in place when you're going through and you're digging up the earth and you're, you know, that, so that when you go that route, that you can just.
The infrastructure's there.
If I understand it, I mean, I don't do this kind of work, but that would be something that, I mean, that, I can't imagine clearing and creating an area and then not making it more secure, and lighting is the first step.
We've actually did that, Maryland, I don't mean to speak out of turn, we actually did that at the stadium at the high school. We have multiple conduits on the ground across the field and everything else, because you can't do that afterwards, so. put in the provisions for future use, absolutely is a good idea.
So I don't know where that would fall into.
I think that would be part of the RFP we write
Okay.
for that to be included.
I have a question. As you move on beyond phase one, you just said you don't know what the public wants. How will you ascertain that? How do you propose to get their input?
Well, we're going to have public meetings, and it's very similar to what you would do for a master plan. When I talked to Mary in passing about it, she doesn't actually want any moving of the earth until we have the master plan done. So there's just so many pieces. But she also was very clear to say she didn't want us to be held back on exploring all of our options.
Right, okay.
And unfortunately, for what we need, it's amazingly expensive. I mean, it just seems, $25,000 to get us what we did, and then we can't even use it, seems, it's a very frustrating process.
So, as far as the 25,000, that money was well spent.
Okay, good.
Just actually taking a look and seeing what could be done, looking at the wetlands that were up there. I believe they did core borings to see if there's ledge or anything, to see if this project could even go forwards. So, don't think that
Okay, good.
that money wasn't,
Good save.
it really
Good
was
save.
well spent.
Okay.
And I love the project. I happen to like the one the commission picked out. I guess part of my thought is, and Bruce, you may be able to help, does it make more sense for us to engineer all three phases, even if we're only doing phase one? So that way it may be more money to put up right at the beginning, but that way then we have all the plans ready to go, and then we say, okay, well, we're gonna attack this part, then this part, then this part,
You could
instead
structure
of.
the bid as alternates too, so phase 1, 2, and 3, and making sure your infrastructure that's obviously in phase 3 is gonna be implemented in phase 1, so you can structure the bid the way you want in order to get the best bang for your buck and get actual numbers also as alternates.
So what we're looking at here is phase 1 is 1.1 million, 10% of that for the design. So would we be looking, let's say the whole project's 3 million, 10% would be 300,000, and then have all the design done at once?
10 to 20% when it comes to engineering at least. And depending, well, to give you an example, Meadowbrook School, that was 2.1 million. The engineering cost for that is 241,000.
But once the engineering is done, it's
Right,
done?
but still, you need an engineer to oversee the project. and-
Right, but what I'm saying is, once the plans are in place, once we've spent that money, it's done, so even if it's 4 years down the road, we can still pull out those plans, engineered plans, and say, okay, let's go to the next part? I mean, am I correct in that?
There's bid documents that have to go along with that too.
Right.
So it's a little complicated, but doable.
Yeah.
Through the chair, I believe I heard that we really don't know what phase 2 and phase 3 would look like. We really want public input.
Right.
We really don't want to go that far when we don't have a real plan. What we want to do is something simple. And I think that we have enough detail here as to the plans as to what we want for that first phase. And I don't understand why we're spending so much time. It's so difficult to get through that when really they've delineated exactly what they want. They want to take small bites at a time until they get more approval and more money. And I believe that we should try to streamline it, and that's my 2 cents.
So, I don't want us to have to spend additional money in the future because we didn't plan now for it.
Could be 10 years.
Right,
It could be 10
It may be, like I said, it's just a thought process. I always know, whenever I'm constructing something or whatever, if I don't think down the road 3 years, and I put it in and then I go, that's it, now I gotta spend this, and we gotta rip up half of that to do this, and.
I don't want to spend $300,000 if we're never going to get there.
And that was the second piece that we did. That's the exact direction that we went. We went really big because our thought process was to do that, and then that was not approved.
think this is a reasonable request.
Entertain a motion.
If you may, through the chair, a question for the head of the CPC. Were there any other applicants so far
Too early.
that you've received?
In the October season or before, or for the
For
April?
this
upcoming
budget
April?
For the
season
upcoming
coming
one,
up?
for April 1st.
No.
None that you're aware of, or no?
None that we
Period.
are aware of.
And what's your funding balance right now?
I actually have the notes on me right now, so I can answer that.
That's why we want him there.
Good.
So currently, as of our last meeting in December, of course, we haven't spent that much since then. We have open space, $246,078. Historical preservation, $232,542. If I'm going too fast. I think.
Yeah.
Community housing with 220,069, and undesignated funds with 664,570.
So this is approximately one half of what you have for open space,
Correct.
and that's what it's coming from.
I would look under undesignated.
Right, I would put it
Undesignated
under
first?
undesignated, yeah.
Okay.
Which in that case, we would have even a little bit more legroom, considering
Right.
it is the largest
Right.
account currently.
I just might add that plus, with a much larger expenditure, they would probably look for bonding.
No.
We are carrying a bond for the pool right now and Brown Farm
Mhm.
with CPC, so that alleviates not exhausting the entire
Right.
account.
I'll entertain a motion.
Trying to write it up.
Nope.
No, you can't use it.
It's,
No.
yeah, down.
What committee is this?
I'm gonna make the motion?
It's,
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty straightforward. I make a motion that
It's right here.
that,
no, it's
no,
not.
I won't do that.
Okay.
Okay,
No, no, I'm talking. I'm listening to you.
all right.
Oh, you're right.
Make a motion that the council authorizes CPA funding requests for $113,101 for purposes of the Recreation Commission to be able to enter into RFPs for engineering and design of Phase 1, or all phases?
Phase one.
Phase 1 of the proposed project at Heritage Park.
Second.
If I,
Further discussion.
Motion's been made and seconded. Further discussion.
I would suggest an amendment to that to say that the monies will be spent out of the undesignated fund.
Okay, I will acquiesce. I will modify my motion. Whoever seconded it, they agree with that?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
and I have a comment too for discussion.
Mhm.
The applicant is a Recreation Commission,
Yes?
which
Yes.
is not, it's a commission of the town, of the rec department, but not a department of the town. Is that okay in that wording? Or should it state the Recreation Department, Parks and Recreation?
It also
It's the
says
recreation director,
the
isn't it?
recreation director is on the top.
Yeah.
But that's not what Don mentioned.
Yeah, I'm just reading it, the sponsoring organization, and the applicant was Donna,
No, you mentioned Recreation Commission.
right, which is what it says, is sponsoring organization.
It should read something different.
Recreation.
Recreation
Department.
director.
Recreation Director of
Jean?
Department.
Chair,
Yes.
I think you're approving the CPC's recommendation.
Which is
Correct.
what, yeah.
Not a department.
Correct,
recommendation.
And I
because
was
they,
just referring to what
they
you're talking
approve the project, or give consent to the project, right?
Right.
So
Which is-
Don's right. It should be we're allocating the money based on the CPC's recommendations.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
Oh, from
From
undesignated.
funds.
undesignated funds.
Sounds about right.
You got that, Jack?
Sure, why
Just make
not?
it up, we'll agree to it, don't worry.
Yeah, soft-
When the minutes come out, we'll go, yes.
Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, please say nay. You're good to go
Oh.
for phase one.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And I welcome any cheat sheets available.
Yeah, we're taking a little left.
That makes
Well, yeah,
Well, it's good to have everybody here
Absolutely.
and having all the players
and it was,
here.
Bruce's input was good too.
Yeah.
Having
And
it-
your comment
yeah.
and sharing what Sarah said was very beneficial too.
Okay, we have a discussion of the appointment of a charter review committee. Pat, are you going to speak about this?
It's really not up to me. It's according to the bylaw, it's
We just
the
have to.
council president
Right,
has to,
appoint a committee,
Appoint a
but first
committee.
we need to advertise somehow to let public know, residents in town, that this committee is going to go forward once it's appointed. So I would recommend that I'll work with Jeannie to create something that can get into the reminder, and also that can be forwarded to Ryan for the website and.
Social media.
And, yeah, and it can be as well on social media. And we'll get this up and running in the next couple of weeks or so.
Sounds like a plan. Sounds
I would volunteer, but I'm leaving very soon.
On a jet plane.
On a jet plane.
The,
Sorry,
the
Kath.
chair?
Sure.
Do we want to, in the advertisement, put a cutoff date for?
We will, yes.
Yeah, okay,
We'll come up
okay.
with something that's reasonable.
Yeah.
Okay. I have nothing else, and it looks like our next item could be adjournment. We have nothing for executive session this evening.
Action items.
Action items.
I'd like to bring up an action item.
Shirley?
We've had several discussions and requested information from our Director of Finance, which was supported by our town manager, to produce a document that was a flow chart of all, an org chart of all the departments.
Mhm.
We have yet to receive that, and I'd like to see that sooner than later with the budget process in place.
Say that again. We do have org charts from,
No, we do not have org charts. We have individual organizational layouts that are inconsistent with any pattern that.
It's true.
Oh, some
they're-
mention people, some mention
Yes,
positions.
it's all over the
All right,
place.
so you
We
want a
people and
standardized
positions.
format.
Well, we suggested a standardized format
Right,
using the
yeah.
DPW's format.
Yeah.
And
But that was
and
of the
that was
previous
months ago.
manager, not this manager.
That was months ago, and no action's been taken on it.
So, I thought Marge made one.
Hmm?
Yeah, we already did them.
They're all over the
But they're
place.
not, it's not a standardized format.
I think Marge had, at one point, had compiled them all together.
She did. Okay,
This
well,
hasn't found its way to us. Okay.
Yeah, I
so
haven't seen it.
I will take responsibility for that when it comes back and figure out where the org
Probably
charts
sitting
are.
right there.
Yeah.
Hmm?
Here we go.
Here you go, Mary.
Like a goal, another one's done.
It's been nice having you here, Ryan.
Anytime.
It's always nice.
They keep saying yes.
And it was nice and warm in here tonight.
Right.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that's right, Bruce,
Boss
thank
is
you.
in the house.
That's right.
Motion to
Okay,
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nobody. We are in adjournment at 8:15, and we'll be back in session on Tuesday, February the 25th at 6 o'clock. Thank you and good evening.